For generations, our understanding of the Earth's farthest reaches has painted a picture of stark, desolate beauty, an untamed wilderness of ice and snow. The Arctic, a vast frozen crown atop our planet, has long been considered a frontier too harsh, too unforgiving for complex societies to ever truly flourish. It is a realm of nomadic hunters, of survival against overwhelming odds, a place where civilization as we know it could never take root. But what if this familiar narrative, so deeply ingrained in our collective consciousness, is merely a veil? What if, beneath the shifting expanses of ice and the relentless cold, lies a secret far more profound, far more ancient than we could ever imagine? For centuries, whispers and fleeting clues have suggested the unthinkable, the lingering memory of a lost kingdom, a sophisticated civilization that once thrived in the Arctic before its story was swallowed whole by time and ice. Tonight, we invite you to journey with us into this profound mystery. So, sit back, relax, and let your mind drift into the uncharted territories of history as we begin to uncover the truths hidden beneath the ice. The accepted wisdom paints a clear picture. The Arctic, in its current form, is a colossal expanse of frozen ocean surrounded by tundra and permafrost, a land largely uninhabitable for anything beyond subsistence living. Geologically, it has endured cycles of glacial advance and retreat for millions of years, periodically locking vast quantities of water into towering ice sheets, rendering the landscape barren and frigid. The archaeological record, as presented by mainstream science, supports this view, showing evidence of small, highly adapted groups of people, the ancestors of modern Inuit and other indigenous Arctic peoples, who mastered survival in this extreme environment, but certainly did not build cities or empires. Their ingenuity lies in their resilience, their ability to navigate and live off the sparse resources, not in the construction of monumental architecture or the development of complex social structures typically associated with civilization. The very idea of a thriving, advanced culture existing in such a setting, particularly in the deep past, seems to defy logic, thermodynamics, and every principle of historical development we thought we understood. But what if the very conditions that make the Arctic seem so inhospitable today were not always its defining characteristics? What if our perception of this frozen world is merely a snapshot, a temporary state in a much longer, more dynamic history? The notion that the Arctic has always been a frozen wasteland, a barrier to human development, is an assumption we rarely question. Yet, the Earth's climate is a fickle thing, subject to grand cycles and sudden dramatic shifts. Could it be that our understanding of this region, constrained by modern observations and conventional timelines, is blinding us to a past that was radically different, a past capable of cradling something extraordinary? This leads us to a fascinating, almost subversive idea, the possibility of a forgotten Arctic civilization. Imagine a time long before the last great ice age truly took hold, when the northern pole was a very different place. Some researchers, daring to venture beyond established paradigms, propose that conditions might have been vastly more temperate, even lush, in certain periods. In this verdant, or at least less hostile Arctic, a society of incredible sophistication could have flourished. These might have been ancestors of humanity we have yet to fully acknowledge, a lineage that developed unique technologies and wisdom tailored to a polar environment that was, perhaps, not so harsh after all. The nature of such a civilization remains purely speculative, a canvas for our deepest imaginings. Could they have harnessed geothermal energy from the Earth's core, creating pockets of warmth in a cooling world? Did they possess an advanced understanding of climate patterns, adapting their settlements to anticipate shifts, or perhaps even influencing them through lost sciences? Some theories suggest these beings might have been highly evolved spiritually, their architecture and technology less about physical domination and more about harmonious coexistence with a powerful natural world. Envision cities built not with stone and mortar as we understand them, but perhaps with advanced, self-sustaining materials designed to withstand extreme cold or even melt away with the ice, leaving little trace for future generations. These were not necessarily ancient Romans or Egyptians reimagined for the North, but perhaps a unique branch of human or pre-human development whose evolution took a different path, guided by the unique challenges and opportunities of a once kinder Arctic. Their knowledge, if it existed, could have encompassed astronomy, navigation, a deep understanding of geomancy, and perhaps even forms of energy that elude us today. Their legacy might not be found in towering ruins, but in subtle energies, in patterns encoded into the landscape, or in the very myths and legends that echo across cultures worldwide, hinting at a lost golden age in the far north. The implications of such a discovery would be profound, forcing us to re-evaluate everything we thought we knew about the origins of civilization, human migration, and the true timeline of advanced societies on Earth. It would challenge the linear progression of history, suggesting instead a cyclical nature where advanced cultures rise and fall, sometimes leaving only the faintest impression upon the geological record. What if the grand narratives of our history books are merely fragments of a much larger, much older story, a story where the Arctic, far from being an empty void, was once a vibrant crucible of human ingenuity and spiritual enlightenment? What if the ice, in its silent, relentless advance, did not just bury a land, but an entire chapter of our shared past? And perhaps the first whispers of this forgotten world weren't heard in frozen ruins, but seen in ancient lines drawn on maps. The whispered possibility of a civilization lost to the ages, slumbering beneath the Arctic ice, might seem at first like a tale spun from frost and moonlight. Yet, as we delve deeper, we find echoes of this forgotten world, not only in ancient lore, but also in places far more tangible, the very maps that chart our understanding of this planet. These are not mere artistic imaginings, but often meticulously drawn records that, in their startling precision, defy our conventional timelines of discovery and knowledge. Imagine for a moment a time before the age of modern exploration, a time when much of our world remained uncharted wilderness, and then consider a map drawn centuries ago depicting coastlines and land masses with an accuracy that should have been impossible for its era. This is the first anomaly we encounter, the cartographic enigma of an ice-free Arctic. Our understanding tells us that vast expanses of the polar regions have been encased in ice for tens of thousands of years, yet certain ancient charts hint at a dramatically different reality. They show lands, channels, and features that appear to belong to a geological epoch long past, when the northern reaches of our globe were verdant and navigable. These aren't just vague sketches. Some display details that correspond with modern bathymetric surveys of submerged continental shelves. The mainstream historical perspective attributes such anomalies to the limitations of early cartography. It suggests that these maps were products of guesswork, compounded by distortions from projections, or perhaps fanciful additions to fill in unknown blanks. Early mapmakers often relied on second-hand accounts, travelers' tales, or philosophical assumptions about geographical balance. The idea of a great southern land, Terra Australis Incognita for instance, existed for centuries before Antarctica was truly sighted, an imagined land to balance the known continents of the northern hemisphere. Therefore, any seeming accuracy for unknown regions is often dismissed as either coincidence or a misunderstanding of what the cartographer was truly trying to represent. They were artists and compilers as much as they were scientists, weaving known facts with prevailing myths and speculative geography. But here, the conventional explanation begins to fray. The precision found in some of these impossible maps, particularly when compared against modern satellite data, is difficult to reconcile with mere speculation or happy accidents. How could these cartographers, working with primitive tools and without global perspective, chart coastlines with an accuracy that sometimes rivals maps from the last century. This isn't about one or two lucky guesses. It's about patterns of detail and geographical relationships that suggest a comprehensive understanding of the Earth's contours. If these maps truly depicted regions as they were before the last glacial maximum, then the knowledge contained within them represents a profound knowledge gap in our historical record, a window into a forgotten age of geographical understanding. Could it be that these ancient maps are not original creations of their stated eras, but rather meticulously copied reproductions of far older source maps? Maps that date back to a time when the Earth's climate and geography were profoundly different. Perhaps a time when the polar regions were indeed warm and ice-free. Some researchers propose that these cartographic remnants are fragments of a lost global surveying project undertaken by a sophisticated civilization that predates our recorded history. What if this lost civilization possessed not only the capacity for such extensive exploration, but also advanced navigation and surveying techniques that allowed them to chart the entire planet with remarkable accuracy? The implication is staggering: a worldwide network of cartographers mapping a world before the ice descended, their knowledge then preserved and passed down, albeit imperfectly, through successive generations, until it resurfaced in the hands of medieval and Renaissance mapmakers. This theory posits a lineage of cartographic knowledge that transcends known historical epochs, hinting at a forgotten golden age of exploration and understanding. This leads us to the Piri Reis map, an extraordinary document drawn in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri ibn Haji Mehmed. This world map, or rather a fragment of one, has fascinated and perplexed scholars for generations. It depicts the coastlines of West Africa, the eastern coast of South America, and a portion of the Antarctic continent. Its accuracy for regions known in the early 16th century is remarkable. Yet the true enigma lies in its depiction of a landmass far to the south, a landmass that strikingly resembles the coastline of Antarctica, a continent that was not officially discovered until 1820 and not fully surveyed until the 20th century. What is even more astonishing to some is that this southern landmass appears to be shown without ice cover, revealing features that align with the subglacial topography of Antarctica, features only revealed by modern seismic soundings. The mainstream explanation for the Piri Reis map is that it is a compilation of some 20 older maps, some of which were captured from Spanish and Portuguese ships during naval encounters. Scholars generally agree that Piri Reis was a meticulous compiler, and his own notes on the map confirm that he used a variety of sources, including maps drawn by Columbus and other contemporary explorers. The depiction of a southern landmass, according to conventional history, is likely a representation of the mythical Terra Australis Incognita, or perhaps a distorted extension of the South American continent. Any perceived accuracy in its Antarctic portrayal is attributed to either remarkable coincidence or an overly enthusiastic interpretation by modern proponents of fringe theories, forcing the data to fit a predetermined narrative. The sheer difficulty of precisely charting such a remote land in the 16th century, let alone knowing its subglacial features, renders the idea of actual discovery implausible within the accepted historical framework. But the but moment for the Piri Reis map is a powerful one. How could a 16th century mapmaker, or his ancient sources, depict mountain ranges and hydrological features beneath the miles-thick Antarctic ice sheet that were only definitively mapped by Anglo-American and Swedish expeditions using seismographic equipment in 1949? Charles Hapgood, a professor of history, famously championed this anomaly, arguing that the map accurately depicts the Queen Maud Land coast of Antarctica, a coast now completely buried under ice. The problem isn't just seeing Antarctica, it's seeing Antarctica as it would have appeared roughly 6,000 years ago, before its permanent ice cap formed. This level of detail, combined with the map's overall high cartographic standards for known regions, pushes the bounds of accidental accuracy. It challenges the very chronology of geographical discovery and the presumed technological capabilities of ancient civilizations, what if the sources Piri Reis consulted were not merely contemporary navigational charts, but incredibly ancient maps perhaps passed down through generations, surviving cataclysms and the ravages of time? Could these be maps crafted by a civilization that thrived during a period when the Earth's poles were significantly warmer, when Antarctica was indeed ice-free? This lost civilization, possessing advanced scientific understanding, might have mapped the entire globe, using techniques and technologies that remain a mystery to us today. Perhaps they understood the principles of spherical trigonometry, geodesy, and even possessed methods for determining longitude with a precision we only achieved in the 18th century with the invention of the chronometer. Some even venture into the realm of truly extraordinary possibilities, suggesting that such mapping could only have been achieved from an aerial perspective, hinting at technologies entirely beyond our current historical record. The survival of such fragments of knowledge, perhaps guarded in secret libraries or oral traditions, only to resurface centuries later, offers a compelling, albeit speculative, narrative for these impossible cartographic feats. What, then, allowed the Piri Reis map to capture such an elusive truth, a truth hidden beneath millennia of ice, defying the very timeline of human exploration and knowledge? Our journey into these cartographic enigmas leads us further north, to the visionary work of another master cartographer, Gerard Mercator. Renowned for his revolutionary map projections that made global navigation possible, Mercator also left behind an astonishing depiction of the Arctic in his 1595 map, Septentrionalium Terrarum Descriptio. This map does not show a barren, frozen wasteland. Instead, it presents the North Pole as 4 distinct landmasses surrounding a vast central whirlpool. One of these lands is labelled Rimae, and the entire region bears a striking, almost mythical quality, often associated with the legends of Hyperborea. Rivers are shown flowing from the interior of these landmasses into the central vortex, suggesting a temperate climate and a habitable environment. From a mainstream historical perspective, Mercator's Arctic depiction is often explained as a synthesis of existing myths, philosophical ideas, and geographical speculation prevalent in the 16th century. The idea of a central magnetic mountain or a great northern maelstrom was not uncommon in medieval cosmology and travelogues. Mercator, like many of his contemporaries, would have incorporated popular beliefs and legends into his mapping of uncharted territories, especially in a region so remote and poorly understood. The concept of terra borealis, or a northern continent, was also a persistent geographical theory. Therefore, Mercator's Arctic is seen as an informed, but ultimately speculative artistic representation, blending known geography with the mythological and the theoretical to create a complete, if not entirely accurate, worldview. But once again, the "but" moment introduces doubt into this neat explanation. Mercator was celebrated for his scientific rigor and his commitment to precision. His other maps were groundbreaking in their accuracy and mathematical basis. Why would such a meticulous cartographer include such overtly mythical elements in a region he was attempting to chart, giving them a geographical certainty usually reserved for known lands? And stranger still, some of the features he depicted, particularly the general outline of the 4 landmasses and the central vortex, have been eerily linked by some alternative researchers to later discoveries of undersea ridges, currents, and even land formations that are now submerged beneath the Arctic Ocean. The Rimae, for instance, could be interpreted as a land bridge or a specific continental feature that has since vanished or been transformed. It raises the question, was Mercator merely indulging in fancy, or was he drawing from sources that preserved an image of an Arctic that once truly existed? Could Mercator, through his own extensive research into ancient texts and forgotten records, have stumbled upon even older maps or descriptions of the Arctic, maps that predate the current ice age? What if these 4 land masses and the central whirlpool were not entirely mythical, but rather a distorted, remembered representation of a once temperate and inhabited Arctic region. Some theories suggest that Mercator's sources could have described the polar center of a massive continent that has since submerged, perhaps the very heartland of the lost civilization we are seeking. The idea that rivers flowed into a central sea suggests a hydrological system that could only exist in a non-frozen environment. Furthermore, the connection to Hyperborea, the mythical land of eternal spring and blessed inhabitants in Greek legend, takes on new significance. If the Arctic was once temperate, then the legends of a northern paradise, untroubled by ice and hardship, could be rooted in a distant collective memory of a real place. Mercator's map, in this light, becomes not a fantasy but a ghost map, a glimpse of a world that did Mercator, the brilliant cartographer, unwittingly preserve fragments of an ancient, forgotten geography, providing us with a tantalizing peek into a time when the North Pole was a vibrant, perhaps even populated realm. The consistent appearance of these accurate, yet impossible, geographical details across various ancient and medieval maps is more than just a series of isolated curiosities. It hints at a shared, sophisticated knowledge base that seems to have vanished from our recorded history. From the Piri Reis map's depiction of a pre-glacial Antarctica to Mercator's temperate Arctic, the threads weave together into a compelling tapestry of anomaly. The mainstream academic view tends to explain these consistent accuracies as products of gradual cumulative knowledge, where various explorers and cartographers slowly piece together information, sometimes making lucky guesses or using theoretical constructs that happen to align with reality. The idea of a single, highly advanced civilization mapping the entire Earth at an early date is generally dismissed due to the lack of direct archaeological evidence to support such technological capabilities in pre-classical societies. Accidents, optical illusions, pareidolia, or simple errors in interpretation are often invoked to explain away the more striking correlations, but the recurring nature of these inconsistencies across different maps and different geographical areas demands a deeper inquiry. The mathematical precision embedded in some of these maps, the sophisticated understanding of projections, and their uncanny depiction of an ice-free Arctic are too persistent to be merely a string of coincidences or simple errors. It suggests a systematic understanding of the Earth's spherical geometry and its surface features that profoundly challenges our conventional timeline of scientific and cartographic development. It implies a level of global surveying and navigational capability that we only associate with the last few centuries. Could these maps be not merely copies, but fragments of a once unified global cartographic system, developed by a civilization capable of astonishing feats of exploration and mapping, perhaps even utilizing technologies we still struggle to comprehend? What if the knowledge of geodesy, the science of measuring and representing the Earth, was far more advanced in antiquity than we currently believe? Some alternative theories propose that this knowledge was preserved and transmitted through various esoteric traditions or hidden schools, resurfacing at opportune moments through individuals like Piri Reis, Mercator, or even earlier, in the works of Ptolemy. Perhaps the lost kingdom beneath the ice was not merely a secluded northern paradise, but a central repository of this global knowledge, its inhabitants the original masters of Earth mapping, their legacy enduring in these perplexing cartographic remnants. The meticulous detail and the sheer scope implied by such ancient global mapping suggests a civilization with a long-term vision and an incredible capacity for organized scientific endeavor. If an ancient, unknown civilization truly mapped the entire Earth with such precision, even its now frozen continents, what other astonishing knowledge about our planet and our shared past have we forgotten, hidden away in plain sight, waiting to be rediscovered within these enigmatic lines and forgotten coastlines? We have journeyed through ancient maps that seem to whisper of a world long forgotten, charting an Arctic far different from the frozen expanse we know today. But what if these cartographic enigmas were not merely forgotten geographical surveys, but faint echoes of deeper, older stories. Stories woven into the very fabric of human consciousness, passed down through generations, hinting at lands beyond the ice, etched into the collective memory of humanity itself. Across cultures, separated by vast oceans and millennia, a peculiar thread weaves through ancient narratives, the persistent tales of a blessed land, a veritable paradise situated in the far north, beyond the immediate grip of winter. From the sun-drenched shores of Greece to the frosty sagas of the Norse, humanity has dreamt of a northern utopia, a place of peace, abundance, and profound knowledge. These are not isolated legends, but a chorus of voices speaking of a wondrous realm where life flourished under conditions that defy our modern understanding of the Arctic. Among the most compelling of these narratives is the Greek legend of Hyperborea. The name itself, meaning beyond the north wind, immediately situates this land in a region that, to the ancient Greeks, represented the very edge of the known world, a place of perpetual twilight and bitter cold. Yet the Hyperboreans were described as a people living in idyllic conditions, bathed in eternal sunlight, free from toil, sickness, and old age. They lived for 1,000 years, blessed with profound spiritual wisdom and a harmonious existence, untouched by conflict or hardship. According to some accounts, they were beloved by Apollo, who would visit their sacred groves. Poets like Pindar and historians like Herodotus spoke of them, often with a mix of awe and skepticism. Yet the details recur: a fertile land, a gentle climate, and a race of beings possessed of incredible longevity and enlightenment. Then there is Thule, a name that resonates with an even deeper sense of remoteness and mystery. First mentioned by the Greek explorer Pytheas in the 4th century BC, Thule was described as a land 6 days' sail north of Britain, near a frozen sea where the sun barely set in summer and barely rose in winter. It became, for the Romans and later the Norse, the ultimate frontier, the Ultima Thule, a mythical land at the very edge of the world. While some interpretations identify it with Iceland or Norway, the consistent emphasis on its extreme northern location, often shrouded in fog and ice, yet paradoxically described as a place of agricultural bounty and a distinct, advanced culture, aligns it with the Hyperborean ideal. Norse sagas, too, hinted at rich lands and powerful beings beyond the northern ice, sometimes portraying them as the dwelling place of gods or the source of magical artifacts. And as we delve deeper into these northern echoes, we encounter even more profound and unsettling concepts. Some theories extend these myths beyond terrestrial geography, connecting them to the esoteric idea of Agartha and the inner earth. This notion, popularized in the 19th and 20th centuries, posits the existence of a vast hidden realm beneath the Earth's surface, often with supposed entrances at the north and south poles. This subterranean world is said to be inhabited by an ancient, highly advanced civilization, guardians of humanity's true history and spiritual wisdom. The inhabitants of Agartha, sometimes referred to as the Elder Race or Masters, are believed to possess technologies and knowledge far beyond our own, influencing human development from afar. Could the mythical Hyperborea and Thule be surface manifestations, or perhaps even gateways to such an incredible inner realm? For mainstream historians, folklorists, and anthropologists, these widespread tales of northern utopias are largely interpreted as folkloric archetypes and allegories. They see them as natural expressions of humanity's longing for paradise, projected onto the most remote and unknown regions of the world. The north, with its shimmering aurora borealis and long periods of darkness or daylight, would have seemed mysterious and otherworldly to ancient peoples, a blank canvas upon which to paint their ideals of a perfect existence. The longevity of the Hyperboreans, for instance, might be seen as a metaphor for a time before human corruption, or a simple exaggeration of an unknown people's lifespan. The tales, they suggest, serve as moral lessons, cultural identity markers, or attempts to rationalize the unknown rather than literal geographical descriptions. These scholars propose that similar human psychological needs and environmental observations lead to similar mythical constructs across different societies, without necessitating a shared historical root. But there's a problem with this explanation, a nagging inconsistency that challenges such straightforward interpretations. If these myths were merely the product of generalized human longing or natural observation, we would expect them to be vague, amorphous, and susceptible to wide cultural variation. Instead, we find a remarkable consistency and specificity in certain details across these disparate narratives, details that transcend simple, wishful thinking. Consider the consistent descriptions of the climate. Despite being located in the extreme north, Hyperborea is often described as possessing a mild, almost subtropical climate with lush vegetation and abundant harvests, sometimes enjoying perpetual sunshine. Thule, while often depicted as icy, also has accounts of a land fertile enough to sustain its people. This isn't just a generic paradise trope, it's a specific climate anomaly attributed to a specific, geographically extreme region. If these were simply allegories, why this recurring counterintuitive detail? Furthermore, the inhabitants of these lands are consistently portrayed not just as happy or good, but as possessing advanced knowledge, profound spirituality, and sometimes even unique physical attributes or extraordinary lifespans. They are often depicted as guardians of ancient secrets, possessing technologies or capabilities unknown to the rest of the world. They are not merely simple pastoral folk, but beings of a higher order, intellectually and spiritually. This level of detail, especially the shared emphasis on advanced qualities, is difficult to dismiss as mere coincidence. Why would so many cultures independently concoct such specific and elevated characteristics for their northern dreamlands? Could it be that these persistent myths are not mere fantasies but fragmented echoes of a distant, collective memory? Some researchers believe that humanity, across its diverse lineages, might retain a faint ancestral memory of a true past, a time when a highly developed civilization existed in the now frozen Arctic. This theory suggests that the Golden Age legends found in cultures worldwide, often pointing to a time before great cataclysms or a decline in human consciousness, are all pointing to the same forgotten origin. If a sophisticated society once thrived in an ice-free Arctic, as the ancient maps hint, then the memories of that golden era, its peaceful people, its advanced knowledge, and its benevolent climate could have been preserved in oral traditions and sacred texts, subtly morphing into mythical tales over vast stretches of time. These would be not direct historical accounts, but symbolic retellings, passed down as legends by survivors of a global shift or cataclysm. Building on this idea, other alternative theories propose that the Arctic was once home to ancient spiritual centers of immense power and influence. Imagine a civilization not only technologically advanced, but also deeply connected to esoteric knowledge in the forces of the natural world. These centers, perhaps utilizing unknown energy sources or technologies that allowed them to maintain a temperate microclimate, could have been beacons of wisdom, attracting seekers from around the globe. The Hyperboreans and the inhabitants of Thule, in this view, might have been the custodians of this ancient wisdom, highly evolved beings who had mastered not only their environment, but also their own consciousness. Their long lifespans and peaceful existence would then be not a myth, but a reflection of their advanced state of being, a testament to a harmonious relationship between humanity and its planet, long since lost to the rest of the world. And then, venturing further into the realm of the profoundly speculative, there is the notion that these myths point to the presence of not just an advanced human civilization, but perhaps even a distinct race of beings, an elder race that either predated or coexisted with early humanity. Drawing connections to the Agartha and Inner Earth theories, some propose that these advanced beings were either guardians of the Earth, seeding human consciousness and culture, or perhaps even a branch of humanity that evolved in isolation, reaching a zenith of spiritual and technological development before retreating into hidden realms. Their benevolent nature and wisdom, as described in the myths, could be interpreted as their role in guiding nascent human civilization, sharing knowledge that later became distorted into tales of gods and mythical heroes. The eternal sunshine and mild climate of Hyperborea could, in this context, be literal descriptions of a technologically maintained environment or even a different dimension of reality accessible only to those with advanced understanding. The idea that the North, a place we now perceive as harsh and unforgiving, was once a cradle of advanced civilization, a spiritual hub, or even the entrance to hidden realms, fundamentally reshapes our understanding of human history and our place in the cosmos. It challenges the linear progression of human development, suggesting instead cycles of rise and fall, periods of great enlightenment followed by forgotten ages. Why do diverse cultures, seemingly unconnected and existing in different eras, share such consistent and specific narratives of a blessed, advanced land in the far north? Are these merely universal human dreams of paradise, or are they profound echoes of a truth long suppressed, a memory so ancient it has receded into the realm of myth, yet still whispers through the ages waiting to be rediscovered? The answer remains elusive, shrouded in the mists of time and the enigmatic silence of the frozen poles. We have journeyed through the whispering echoes of ancient maps that seem to hint at lands long forgotten, and sifted through the rich tapestry of global myths, stories of northern utopias that resonate with a startling consistency across disparate cultures. These whispers and legends, profound in their implications, beckon us now to a deeper truth, one etched not in parchment or oral tradition, but in the very bedrock of our world. For if an ancient kingdom once thrived beneath the northern lights, as these tales suggest, then surely the earth itself must hold secrets of a past far warmer, far more hospitable than the frozen expanse we know today. It is a past that challenges our most fundamental understanding of planetary history, buried under the ice, waiting to reveal itself. In the vast, desolate stretches of the Arctic, a paradox unfurls. Today, this is a realm of ice and snow, of permafrost and biting winds, a stark landscape where life clings tenuously to existence. Yet, beneath this glacial shroud, deep within the sedimentary layers of what are now polar regions, geologists have unearthed startling evidence that paints a dramatically different picture. Here, where polar bears now roam, scientists have found the fossilized remains of ancient alligators, their leathery scales long turned to stone. The delicate fronds of palm trees, once swaying in a humid breeze, now lie preserved in rock. Towering redwood forests, remnants of a bygone era, have been discovered in places like Axel Heiberg Island in the Canadian Arctic, their ancient root systems still visible, embedded in what was once fertile soil. Even warm-water marine life, delicate corals and shelled creatures that thrive in balmy tropical seas, appear in the geological record of these perpetually frozen oceans. These are not isolated anomalies. They are abundant, widespread markers, proclaiming an epoch when the Arctic was not a frigid wasteland, but a vibrant, verdant paradise, teeming with life we now associate with much milder, even tropical climes. The sheer scale of these discoveries, from land to sea, compels us to question the enduring image of the Arctic as a place always defined by ice. The conventional explanation for these incongruous fossils is rooted in the widely accepted understanding of Earth's deep geological history. For much of our planet's immense lifespan, its climate has indeed been significantly warmer than it is today. Scientists point to various periods, such as the Eocene epoch, roughly 56 to 34 million years ago, when global temperatures were much higher, driven by elevated levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide. During these hothouse phases, the poles themselves were thought to be ice-free, allowing temperate and even subtropical species to flourish. This global warmth, proponents of the mainstream view argue, was a result of natural geological processes, continental drift-altering ocean currents, periods of intense volcanic activity releasing greenhouse gases, and a slow, meandering shift in the Earth's energy balance over millions of years. It's a picture of gradual, immense change, a planet slowly cooling from a hot infancy, punctuated by cycles of warmer and cooler periods, all within the grand, slow rhythm of Earth's evolution. This explanation provides a logical framework for understanding how tropical life could once have existed at what are now the poles. But there is a profound problem with this explanation, one that begins to unravel the neat tapestry of gradual change. While the idea of a naturally warmer Earth is well established, the degree of warmth required to support extensive tropical flora and fauna at the poles themselves, and the rapidity of some of these climatic shifts, presents a challenge that the conventional models struggle to fully encompass. For an alligator, a palm tree, or a redwood forest to thrive so far north, the polar regions would have needed not just to be ice-free, but to maintain consistently warm, frost-free conditions year-round, even during the months of perpetual darkness. Current atmospheric models, even with significantly higher CO2 levels, find it difficult to fully account for the complete absence of polar ice and the maintenance of such extreme warmth across the Arctic, especially without drastic seasonal temperature drops. Furthermore, the fossil record sometimes suggests transitions that were not always the slow, predictable march of geological time, but rather more abrupt, almost cataclysmic shifts from warmth to cold, or vice versa, hinting at forces far more dynamic than gradual climatic evolution. This dissonance between the evidence and the limitations of conventional models has led some researchers to explore more radical, even speculative alternative theories. Could it be that during these epochs the Earth's axis itself was oriented differently, allowing for a more even distribution of solar radiation? Or perhaps the continents were positioned in such a way that the Arctic basin was somehow sheltered, warmed by different ocean currents, or even surrounded by land masses that trapped heat more effectively. Other, more daring hypotheses propose that the Earth's very crust might have shifted rapidly over its liquid mantle in what is known as crustal displacement, or pole shift theory. This idea suggests that entire land masses could have been moved from equatorial to polar regions, or vice versa, in a relatively short geological time frame, perhaps thousands of years rather than millions. Such a shift, some believe, could explain the sudden appearance of warmth or cold in regions that were once temperate, disrupting established climate patterns in a dramatic, sweeping manner that defies gradual change. What if, for a time, the North Pole was not where it is today, but instead resided in a more temperate zone, allowing a vast civilization to flourish in what would later become the frozen Arctic? The very existence of these fossils, these silent witnesses to a tropical Arctic, forces us to confront a fundamental mystery. What true drivers shaped the Earth's climate in its profound past? How could these extreme polar conditions have sustained such abundant, diverse ecosystems for millions of years? And what powerful, perhaps forgotten, mechanisms maintained such enduring warmth in a region now defined by its perpetual ice? The questions deepen the intrigue, suggesting that our understanding of Earth's climatic history and its capacity to sustain complex societies may be far from complete. Building on the enigma of these lush fossil beds, we encounter another geological riddle, the evidence for unbelievably rapid climate shifts, transitions so abrupt they seem to challenge the very foundations of gradual planetary change. Imagine, if you will, a landscape teeming with life, then, almost in an instant, plunged into an ice age, its inhabitants frozen in time. Such is the perplexing scenario presented by the remains of countless woolly mammoths, often found perfectly preserved in the Siberian permafrost. Not only are their carcasses intact, sometimes with undigested food still in their stomachs, indicating a sudden death and freezing, but they are often discovered alongside other megafauna of temperate climes. Species that would not typically coexist in a gradually developing cold environment. The speed of their entombment, the very fact that their flesh and stomach contents remained unspoiled, speaks to an immediate, dramatic environmental catastrophe, a shift so swift that life itself was caught unaware and perfectly preserved, not in the slow grind of glaciation, but in a sudden, deep freeze. These are not merely fossils, they are snapshots of an instant catastrophe, global in its implications. The established scientific framework primarily attributes the cyclical nature of ice ages and interglacial periods to the Milankovitch cycles. Named after the Serbian astrophysicist Milutin Milankovic, these cycles describe long-term variations in Earth's orbit around the Sun, its axial tilt, and the wobble of its axis, precession. These subtle astronomical shifts occurring over tens to hundreds of thousands of years alter the amount and distribution of solar radiation reaching different parts of the Earth. Over vast timescales, these changes are understood to trigger the advance and retreat of massive ice sheets, slowly ushering in periods of glaciation or warming. This model elegantly explains the broad pattern of recurring ice ages that have shaped our planet's recent geological past, providing a compelling and scientifically sound explanation for the ebb and flow of global ice. It paints a picture of a planet responding, albeit slowly, to the predictable rhythms of its celestial dance. But there is a significant problem with this explanation when confronted with the evidence of truly cataclysmic and sudden environmental shifts. While Milankovitch cycles undoubtedly influence long-term climate trends, their gradual nature operates on timescales of thousands of years. They cannot, by their very mechanism, account for the near instantaneous freezing of a mammoth with buttercups in its stomach, or the abrupt transition from a verdant landscape to an icy wasteland. The geological record, particularly in the Arctic, contains markers that suggest events far more dynamic and immediate than the slow orbital march of Milankovitch cycles. These include layers of ash from ancient supervolcanoes, evidence of widespread flooding, and deposits consistent with extraterrestrial impacts, all suggesting that Earth's climate history is not just a slow waltz, but has been punctuated by sudden, violent, planet-altering events that defy a simple, gradual explanation. This discrepancy has fueled a range of alternative theories, each attempting to grapple with the sheer scale and suddenness of these ancient environmental changes. One of the most provocative is the theory of rapid pole shifts or crustal displacement, put forward by thinkers like Charles Hapgood, whose work captivated Albert Einstein. This theory posits that the Earth's entire solid crust might, under certain conditions, shift suddenly over its fluid mantle, causing continents to move thousands of miles in a matter of centuries or even decades. Such an event would instantly relocate land masses from temperate to polar zones, or vice versa, inducing a rapid climate change that could explain the sudden freezing of animals or the swift onset of an ice age. While controversial, supporters point to geological evidence that might suggest such events. Other theories include massive extraterrestrial impacts, such as asteroid or comet strikes, which could plunge the Earth into a nuclear winter scenario, rapidly cooling the planet through atmospheric dust and debris. Similarly, supervolcano eruptions on a scale far beyond anything witnessed in human history could have injected enormous quantities of ash and aerosols into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and leading to immediate, drastic cooling. Could one or a combination of these cataclysmic events have been responsible for wiping clean the slate of an ancient Arctic civilization? If an entire region could transition from lush warmth to an instant ice age, preserving life frozen in time, then what power could have been so immense as to trigger such a profound and rapid transformation of our planet's surface? The unanswered questions linger, echoing through the layers of ice and rock, challenging our perceptions of Earth's stability and the true drivers of its geological and climatic destiny. The very idea of a once warm and habitable Arctic, then suddenly frozen, leads us to perhaps the most intriguing speculation of all. If such an environment existed, and if an advanced civilization truly thrived within it, could they have possessed the means to not only adapt to their surroundings, but perhaps even to shape them? The scale of energy required to warm an entire polar region, or to survive its sudden cataclysmic freezing, is immense. It forces us to consider the possibility of a forgotten understanding of planetary forces, or even an astonishing level of technological prowess that far surpasses what we attribute to ancient human endeavors. The mainstream view, of course, does not generally entertain the notion of advanced ancient civilizations possessing climate-altering capabilities. Human civilization, in this view, is a relatively recent phenomenon, gradually progressing from primitive tools to modern technology, with large-scale environmental modification being a development of the last few centuries at most. The natural, geological, and astronomical explanations, therefore, are seen as entirely sufficient to explain past climate changes. But there is a profound but here, a pivot point in our understanding. If we entertain the possibility, however remote, of a sophisticated pre-Ice Age civilization in the Arctic, a premise supported by the very existence of those ancient maps and consistent myths we explored earlier, then the question arises, could their relationship with their environment have been far more nuanced, far more active than we currently imagine? If the Arctic was consistently warm for millennia, as the fossil record suggests, and if an advanced society flourished there, could there have been more than just passive adaptation at play? What if they possessed an understanding of the planet's energy systems that allowed them to influence or even maintain their habitable zone? This challenges our linear perception of technological progress and opens the door to truly extraordinary possibilities. This tantalizing but propels us into a realm of highly speculative, yet profoundly thought-provoking, alternative theories regarding the maintenance of Arctic warmth or the survival of a civilization through rapid climate change. Some researchers dare to ponder the concept of advanced terraforming technology. Could an ancient, highly evolved civilization have possessed the knowledge and means to subtly, or even overtly, modify their planetary climate on a grand scale? This might involve manipulating atmospheric composition to enhance a greenhouse effect, redirecting powerful ocean currents to bring warm water to the polar basin, or even tapping into geological heat sources deep within the Earth's crust. Such capabilities would imply an understanding of planetary dynamics far beyond our current grasp, a mastery over nature that we are only beginning to conceptualize in our own modern era. The idea suggests that the lushness of the ancient Arctic might not have been purely a fluke of natural conditions, but perhaps partly a cultivated, managed environment. Another compelling hypothesis revolves around the concept of unknown energy sources. What if this lost civilization harnessed an energy source that remains entirely mysterious to us today? Perhaps they understood how to tap into the Earth's own geothermal energy in ways far more efficient than our current methods, creating localized warmth through vast subterranean networks. Or could they have utilized telluric currents, the powerful electrical currents flowing within the Earth itself, or even cosmic energies, to create and maintain habitable conditions in an otherwise challenging environment? Such an energy source would not only provide comfort, but could also power the intricate systems required for an advanced society. The very persistence of a warm Arctic, defying conventional explanations, might be the silent testament to an energy solution long forgotten. Then there is the most ambitious and perhaps most fantastical theory, the construction of atmospheric shields, or vast enclosed habitats. Could an advanced Arctic civilization have engineered massive, energy-intensive atmospheric domes or physical structures to create stable, warm microclimates for their cities and agricultural zones? Such a feat would demand colossal energy resources and engineering prowess, but it would offer an explanation for the sustained warmth in a region prone to cold. particularly in the face of rapid climate shifts. These could be subtle, almost invisible atmospheric manipulations or monumental architectural achievements lost beneath the accumulating ice and sediment of millennia. The very notion strains credibility for some, yet for others, it represents the kind of ingenuity that an advanced society facing extreme environmental challenges might develop. If an ancient civilization truly flourished in a once warm Arctic and then faced the sudden wrath of planetary upheaval, what forgotten secrets of energy generation, climate control, or even planetary engineering might they have possessed? What knowledge allowed them to thrive, and what might have ultimately led to their demise, leaving behind only tantalizing geological riddles? These unanswered questions draw us ever deeper into the mysteries veiled by the Arctic's vastness, hinting at wonders yet to be discovered, and perhaps technologies yet to be understood, hidden beneath the shifting ice. For if the Earth itself has witnessed such dramatic changes and housed such advanced life, what other secrets might be sleeping, waiting for us to uncover them? The whispers of a warmer Arctic, of ancient flora and fauna thriving in a landscape now locked in ice, paint a compelling picture of a world lost to time. Yet, if such a profound climatic shift could occur, and if indeed a complex society once flourished in that forgotten epoch, then surely some trace, some tangible echo of their presence must linger. We have explored the legends, the maps, the geological riddles, all pointing to an improbable past. But what if the ice itself holds not just the climate's secrets, but the very remnants of an advanced civilization waiting to be unveiled? Today, with sophisticated eyes in the sky and piercing sonic waves beneath the surface, we possess tools to peer into the Arctic's frozen depths as never before. And as we look, unsettling patterns begin to emerge. Reports, often dismissed as anomalies or curiosities, describe alleged satellite and sonar detections of colossal, geometrically precise structures nestled beneath the polar ice caps. These aren't vague outlines, but rather distinct formations, some stretching for miles, exhibiting angles and symmetries that seem to defy natural geological explanation. They appear almost engineered, massive forms hidden by millennia of ice and ocean, silent giants sleeping in the frigid darkness. Some researchers speak of vast, grid-like patterns, others of towering edifices, all cloaked in an almost impenetrable shroud of secrecy and remoteness. These digital spectres flicker on screens in research labs, hinting at an order that seems out of place in the wild, untamed wilderness of the deep Arctic. The mainstream scientific community, quite naturally, approaches these findings with extreme caution. The conventional explanation attributes these intriguing patterns to natural geological phenomena, submarine mountain ranges, volcanic formations, unique sedimentary deposits, or the sheer, distorting pressures of ice movement could, in theory, create unusual contours that might, from a distance, be misinterpreted. Furthermore, the human mind is adept at finding patterns where none truly exist, a phenomenon known as pareidolia, turning random data into familiar shapes. Sensor glitches, processing errors, or the sheer scale and obscurity of the data are also frequently cited as explanations for these enigmatic images. They are seen as the ocean floor simply doing what it does, shaped by eons of tectonic forces and currents, rather than by intelligent design. But there is a lingering unease with these conventional explanations, a quiet but that resonates deeply within the minds of those who study the data closely. The precision observed in some of these satellite and sonar anomalies stretches the boundaries of natural formation. Imagine angular structures, perfect squares, or lines extending for tens of miles with an unnatural straightness, not unlike the foundations of a monumental city. Their sheer scale is often staggering, dwarfing any known natural structures in their location. Deep beneath vast sheets of ice or in abyssal ocean trenches, renders them virtually inaccessible for direct investigation. The very difficulty of verification makes them easy to dismiss, Yet the recurring patterns across different data sets from independent sources begin to accumulate, forming a quiet challenge to the prevailing narrative. How many natural coincidences must occur before we begin to question the definition of coincidence itself? And so the quiet speculation begins to stir. Could it be that these are not merely geological accidents, but the profound architectural remnants of an advanced pre-Ice Age civilization? Theories suggest these could be submerged cities, vast settlements built when the Arctic was a habitable, even temperate land. Perhaps they are not cities in the conventional sense, but rather massive engineered structures designed for a specific, now forgotten purpose: power generation, resource extraction, or even climate modification. Some postulate they could be the foundations of hidden bases constructed to endure catastrophic shifts, safeguarding knowledge or resources for a distant future. The idea of advanced technology far beyond our current understanding playing a role in their construction or purpose becomes an intriguing possibility. What if these geometric forms are not architectural at all, but the outlines of colossal machines, dormant now, but once vital to the very existence of a lost Arctic kingdom? The questions echo into the deep. If these submerged anomalies are indeed the work of an intelligent hand, what kind of civilization possessed the capability to build on such an unthinkable scale, to withstand the grinding power of glaciers, and to disappear so completely from our history books? What secrets, what unimaginable technologies still lie buried beneath the crushing weight of the polar ice caps, awaiting a future revelation? Beyond the distant, often ambiguous data of satellites and sonar, there are more tangible, though equally baffling, whispers emerging from the vast, frozen expanse of the Arctic, particularly from the immense Siberian territories. These are the rumors of unusual structures and advanced artifacts, sometimes described with hushed reverence, other times with incredulous skepticism. Tales surface of prospectors or indigenous hunters stumbling upon objects that defy classification, fragments of metals unlike any known alloy, intricately carved stones bearing unknown symbols, or pieces of machinery with impossible precision, all found embedded in ancient soils or revealed by the relentless retreat of permafrost. These aren't archaeological finds in the conventional sense, often lacking context or formal study, but rather anecdotal accounts that persist across generations and regions, painting a mosaic of tantalizing, improbable encounters. The mainstream perspective tends to label these accounts as folklore, misidentification, or even outright fabrication. The harsh, remote environment of Siberia is known for its unique geological formations and mineral deposits, which could easily be mistaken for artificial objects by the untrained eye. Meteoritic impacts, natural crystal growth, or even the remnants of more recent, though unknown, human activity might explain some of these strange sightings. Furthermore, in regions steeped in shamanistic traditions and ancient myths, stories often grow and distort over time, turning ordinary rocks into mystical artifacts and commonplace events into supernatural occurrences. The sheer lack of scientific peer review or verifiable evidence for most of these claims means they remain firmly in the realm of rumor and local legend. Fascinating, but unsubstantiated. But there's a compelling but to this dismissive stance: the consistent descriptive details that emerge from disparate accounts across vast distances. How do different individuals with no apparent connection independently describe objects of similar anachronistic nature? The descriptions often point to materials with unusual properties, light yet incredibly strong, or resistant to corrosion in ways modern alloys are not. The precision and design hinted at in these whispered tales suggest a level of craftsmanship far beyond the capabilities of any known historical culture in these regions. The rarity of actual recovery, often due to the extreme conditions or the belief that such objects hold sacred or dangerous power, only adds to their mystique and prevents easy debunking. These aren't isolated incidents, but rather a persistent thread in the tapestry of Arctic lore, too numerous and specific to be entirely dismissed as mere fantasy. Such persistent whispers invite deeper contemplation. Could these rumored finds be more than just folklore? Perhaps they are the true, yet unconfirmed physical evidence of advanced pre-Ice Age technology, fragments of a forgotten era of innovation. Some theories propose these objects could be remnants of sophisticated tools, energy devices, or components of complex systems left behind by the lost Arctic civilization. They might represent a level of scientific and engineering achievement that radically redefines our understanding of human ingenuity, suggesting cyclical rather than linear technological progression. Other, more provocative ideas hint at an ultra-terrestrial presence, extraterrestrial visitors leaving behind their own technological signatures, which through some ancient connection became intertwined with the history of the polar regions. The harsh environment has preserved them, while simultaneously shielding them from discovery. So, are these simply wild tales carried on the biting Arctic winds? Or do these elusive rumors hint at objects and technologies that would force us to completely rewrite our history, confirming an age of forgotten wonders? What incredible secrets, what lost knowledge might still lie concealed, waiting for an intrepid hand to unearth them from beneath the permafrost? As we delve further into the tangible, if equally perplexing realm of artifacts, the Siberian region once again calls our attention. Here, within the ancient soils and thawing permafrost, alleged archaeological discoveries have presented scientists with items that appear profoundly anachronistic, defying our established timeline of technological development. These aren't grand structures, but often remarkably small, intricate objects, tiny, precise microcoils, impossibly fine gears, or minute components made of sophisticated alloys, all found in geological layers that date back tens, if not hundreds, of thousands of years. They are embedded in strata far predating any known human civilization capable of such advanced metallurgy or micromachining. These out-of-place artifacts, or UPART, from Siberia, though often controversial, spark intense debate, forcing us to confront the possibility that what we understand about the ancient world might be fundamentally incomplete. The mainstream archaeological and geological communities offer a range of explanations for these perplexing Siberian finds. Often the objects are dismissed as natural geological formations that, through a trick of nature and erosion, mimic artificiality. Certain mineral crystals or naturally occurring metallic aggregates can indeed form intricate, almost machine-like structures. Another common explanation is contamination, that these small objects, perhaps from a later period, have somehow migrated downwards through soil layers, becoming erroneously associated with much older strata. Misdating or errors in stratigraphic analysis are also cited. In some cases, the suggestion is that these are simply modern debris, left behind by human activity, whose presence in ancient contexts is a result of mistaken identity or even deliberate hoaxing, though the latter is less common given the difficulty of such elaborate deception. But the but here is a powerful one, anchored in the precise nature of these minuscule artifacts. It is incredibly difficult for natural geological processes to consistently produce perfectly wound coils, uniform helical structures, or gears with perfectly spaced teeth and standardized dimensions. The alloys themselves, when analyzed, sometimes reveal combinations of metals that either don't occur naturally in such a pristine state or require sophisticated smelting techniques not believed to exist in the Stone Age. Furthermore, the meticulous documentation by some researchers attempts to rule out contamination, carefully excavating the objects from undisturbed ancient sediments. The sheer consistency of their anachronistic placement across multiple sites and the undeniable complexity of their design create a persistent conundrum that strains the credulity of purely natural or accidental explanations. They seem to whisper of intent, of design, of a knowing hand. And so the alternative theories surrounding these Siberian artifacts begin to paint a fascinating, if challenging, picture of the deep past. Could these tiny marvels be the tangible, undeniable proof of advanced pre-Ice Age technology, a forgotten branch of engineering that existed long before our recorded history? Some researchers speculate that these are components of highly sophisticated instruments, perhaps for energy generation, communication across vast distances, or even devices for environmental control, small parts of a much larger, complex technological framework. The idea of an ancient civilization in the Arctic region possessing an understanding of physics and engineering far beyond our own gains traction. Perhaps these artifacts are relics not of human innovation as we know it, but of ultra-terrestrial presence, technological signatures left behind by a species not from this world, or at least not from this recorded epoch. If these minute, yet impossibly complex, objects indeed defy our current understanding of the ancient past, what larger, more profound secrets might be embedded within the very ground beneath our feet, veiled by the vastness and the perpetual ice of the Arctic? What unknown secrets are truly veiled by the Arctic's immense, silent vastness? And how do these accumulating anomalies challenge our perceptions of ancient life, lost civilizations, and the true extent of technology on Earth, forcing us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about humanity's origins and capabilities? We have journeyed through whispers of ancient maps, explored the persistent echoes of northern utopias in myth, delved into the surprising geological past of a once lush Arctic, and peered at the tantalizing anomalies hidden beneath its vast, frozen expanse. Now, as the silent snow continues its vigil, we are left to ponder the profound implications of these scattered clues. The accumulated weight of this evidence, though individually dismissed by some, begins to form an impossibly intricate tapestry. Considered in isolation, each ancient map anomaly, each recurring myth of Hyperborea, each fossil of tropical life, each alleged structural anomaly beneath the ice might be seen as an isolated curiosity, a minor deviation from the established historical record. Conventional explanations tend to compartmentalize these findings, attributing them to cartographic error, imaginative folklore, natural geological processes, or simple misinterpretation. But there is a problem with this fragmented perspective. When these disparate threads are woven together, the pattern that emerges is too consistent, too resonant, to be easily dismissed as mere coincidence or isolated phenomena. Some researchers believe that this coherent pattern points towards a unified narrative, suggesting the unmistakable fingerprint of a lost, highly advanced civilization that once thrived in the Arctic. If this is true, what would the very existence of such a sophisticated pre-glacial society truly mean for the meticulously constructed understanding of human development we hold today? Our prevailing view of human history is a largely linear progression, a slow and steady ascent from primitive hunter-gatherers to complex agrarian societies, culminating in our modern technological age. We chart a course from the first crude tools to the pyramids, from early writing to quantum physics, always moving forward. Mainstream academia presents a timeline where civilization as we know it began in specific cradles in specific regions, at specific times. But this neatly ordered narrative is profoundly challenged by the possibility of an advanced Arctic civilization, thriving millennia before our recognized birth of complex societies. The implications ripple across our entire understanding of human progress. Could human history, rather than a continuous climb, be more cyclical, a grand cosmic waltz of rises and falls? Could there have been epochs of remarkable achievement, perhaps even surpassing our current technological or spiritual understanding, only to be swallowed by cataclysm and lost to the mists of time? If such peaks of civilization existed and vanished, leaving behind only the faintest whispers, what then truly defines progress, and how much invaluable knowledge might have been irrevocably lost? This notion of cyclical time finds powerful resonance in ancient myths across the globe. Nearly every culture harbors tales of great floods, destructive cataclysms, and the restarting of the world, often with a few survivors carrying fragments of old knowledge. For generations, these stories have been interpreted primarily as allegorical tales, moral lessons, or localized narratives reflecting regional environmental disasters. But there is a compelling argument against reducing these narratives to mere metaphor. The astonishing consistency and sheer global scale of these cataclysmic myths, when juxtaposed with geological evidence of sudden, drastic shifts in Earth's past and the potential reality of a lost Arctic kingdom, suggests something far more profound. Could these persistent legends be a collective memory, a deep-seated ancestral recollection of a grand cycle of destruction and rebirth? Perhaps humanity's story is one of recurring advanced epochs, each wiped clean only for the next to emerge, slowly rediscovering what was once widely known. If so, was the Arctic kingdom one such glorious, albeit ultimately ephemeral epoch in this endless loop? Indeed, there is a deep, almost primal human yearning for lost origins, an insatiable fascination with ancient mysteries, and the persistent idea of a golden age or forgotten past. This pervasive sense of an obscured history, of fundamental truths just beyond our grasp, has fueled countless legends and quests throughout the ages. Mainstream psychology often attributes this yearning to mere romanticism, a desire for simpler times, or an archetypal projection of our collective unconscious. But could this powerful, global yearning be more than simple nostalgia, more than an abstract psychological construct? Could it in fact be an ancestral memory, a subconscious pull towards a truth that has been deliberately obscured or simply forgotten? Perhaps our collective unconscious truly holds fragments of a bygone era, a memory of a time when humanity was more connected, more attuned to ancient knowledge, or lived in harmony with a lost wisdom. In this light, history transforms from a dry chronology of dates and names into a profound and tantalizing riddle, etched into the very fabric of our being, waiting patiently to be solved. If our past is truly such a riddle, are we asking the right questions, and are we truly prepared for the answers that might unravel our deepest assumptions? The very idea that a major, technologically sophisticated civilization could have existed and vanished without leaving universally accepted traces fundamentally alters the grand tapestry of our understanding. Our current historical narrative, often seen as a comprehensive record, may, in truth, be incomplete, filled with vast blank spaces. History is often written by the victors, and what we know is typically what has survived the ravages of time and the scrutiny of modern discovery. But the sheer scale of the Arctic's hidden potential, combined with the anomalies that continuously challenge our established paradigms, suggests profound blind spots in our historical vision. If such a kingdom once thrived beneath a warmer Arctic, it implies a level of adaptability, resilience, and perhaps technological or spiritual sophistication that far predates our current understanding. This possibility forces us to consider that humanity's true potential and its complete past are far grander, more complex, and infinitely more mysterious than we currently imagine. The Arctic, shrouded in its eternal ice and myth, beckons us to look deeper, to listen more closely to the whispers of its ancient secret. It invites us to contemplate a past where the lines between legend and reality are blurred, where the very foundations of our knowledge may rest upon shifting sands. As the silent, frozen expanses hold their secrets close, they challenge us to open our minds to the possibility that the greatest story ever told is one that remains largely untold. And if these hidden truths are eventually unveiled, what new possibilities or what profound warnings might they reveal about humanity's future? The ice, it seems, has much left to say,